Brothers and sisters, we're here in a very, very special and unique and wonderful place indeed, the Edible Schoolyard of Berkeley High School in downtown Berkeley. It's so bucolic here, it's so peaceful, it's so quiet. We're surrounded by vegetable gardens, by fruiting trees, by grasses, and the high school buildings are in the background over there. And we're going to be talking today about the looming food crisis here in America that is rushing towards us. As many of you know, there have been severe floods in the Midwest, and the planting in Minnesota, Indiana, Illinois, and South Dakota, the planting of corn has been set way, way back because of the unusual floods that they've been having. And since corn is so important, not only is it a staple of the American diet, but it's also very, very important because corn is mainly fed to animals that people eat for food. And let's face it, most Americans are still addicted to eating meat. And the main ingredient for eating meat is corn. Corn is fed to animals to fatten them up. So the corn crop is exceedingly important, and it's way, way behind. And this means that we're facing a food crisis here, and that the price of food, if nothing else, the price of food late spring and summer is going to soar, without a doubt. So therefore, we cannot afford to be passive in this. Brothers and sisters, now is the time. Now is the time to start growing. We've preached this time and time again, to get hands and feet in the soil, in this American soil, in this American earth. But growing, in our humble opinion, is no longer an option. It's a necessity. Your survival may well depend upon it. Growing your own food and knowing how to do that efficiently and effectively is a survival skill. So therefore, we exhort you, brothers and sisters, as we said time and time again, to get growing. Get growing in your backyard. Turn your backyard into a biointensive, edible, biodynamic, French-intensive vegetable garden. To turn your front yard into an heirloom, historic fruit tree garden, to get growing. And if you're not fortunate enough to have a backyard or a front yard, if you live in a condo or in an apartment, then join a community garden. And if you don't have a community garden in your locale, then approach the powers that be in your community, because most every community has within its domain considerable tracts of open space. I remember in San Diego, when I was the chairman of a community garden there, and we approached the city fathers there, and after presentation and representation, they gave us a wonderful tract of land. They had parked vehicles there, 10-ton trucks that the city used, but it was just earth, it wasn't pavement. We worked up the soil, we brought in seaweed, we brought in manure, and we brought that soil back into wondrous fertility. So approach your local government. Another thing you can do is that even if you don't have a community garden, if you don't have a backyard or a front yard, still even in the privacy of your kitchen, you can grow flats of edible greens, as we have demonstrated in previous videos. And there's so much out there on sprouting and on microgreens, all of which is entirely possible to. And even if it's a box in your windowsill, we say, America, get growing. So let's start. Let's start growing. And one of the joys that we can do is to start. We're going to be starting an entire springtime and midsummer garden just in this flat alone. We'll start with spinach. This is an heirloom spinach going way back. It's very common, Bloomsdale spinach, and it's a wonderful variety of spinach. It's been around for over 150 years. So we're planting some spinach. And then we're going to plant some mustard greens. This is another very common variety of mustard. It's called Green Wave, and it will hold up. It will hold its own even in considerable heat. So we're going to plant a mustard green. Simple as that. And then of course, we've got to plant kale. What can be more nutritious than kale? So we're going to be planting a kale. Okay. And then we're going to be planting some beets. So I have an old variety of beet called Bull's Blood. Bull's Blood, and that's because it's very red, like the blood presumably of a bull. And we'll plant some Bull's Blood beets. Okay, done it. And now we're going to cover the seeds that we've just sown. We're going to cover them, covering them lightly. All right, little more. Okay, good. And now we're going to plant some lettuce. And the joy of doing your own planting, one of the things, by starting from seed instead of buying plants in a nursery, you save considerable amount of money. But you have the joy of using heirloom and historic varieties. And here's a variety of lettuce, Grandpa Admire's, going way back in American history. I got this from the Seed Savers Exchange, a wonderful organization. So we're going to plant some Grandpa lettuce. It's beautiful. It's beautifully colored, beautiful texture. You can see a picture of Grandpa Admire's lettuce on the seed packet, and it's gorgeous with reds, with greens, and with yellows. We're going to plant some winter density lettuce. This goes way back in American history. Winter density, a very reliable standby. It's a romaine lettuce. Winter density. We're going to plant an endive called Nacha. I got this from Johnny's Selected Seed, another wonderful organization dedicated to helping gardeners and family farmers with rare and old-time and historic varieties of seeds. Then we will plant an Austrian variety of seed called Forentialis. So we'll plant this Austrian variety of seed. And we're going to plant another variety of lettuce going way back. And this is this is a speckled lettuce. Look at the image and how speckled, how magnificent these leaves are. So we're going to be planting the speckled lettuce. So, and so forth, and so forth. And then when I'm and I'm not going to cover the lettuce seed, because the smaller, the finer, the smaller the seed is, the less you cover it. And with lettuce seed, you simply leave the lettuce seed out on the surface. Now when I get this back home, what I'm going to do is to water all this. And this, as my esteemed partner John Kozak said, who helped me found our company. We used to be a nursery devoted to heirloom and historic fruit trees. And as John Kozak, an educator with the Biodynamic Farming and Gardening Association of Southern California, used to say, watering a seed is the biggest event in the seed's life. That's the signal to the seed to get going and to get growing. So I'm going to water this thoroughly. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to put the flat, after watering, I'm going to put it inside a plastic bag. And I'm going to leave it in the bag for 3 or 4 days. Every day or every other day, I could take the bag off, water it, and then put it back in. And I will store this in a dark, warm place, and it will be sealed in the bag. And the bag will keep the moisture in. Droplets of water will form on the top of the bag, and that will create a humid atmosphere perfect for seed germination. So I will keep this in the bag, and I'll water it and take the bag off, water it every day, put it back in a dark, warm place. And then after 3 or 4 days, it will start to germinate. And as soon as germination occurs, as the seeds start to germinate, I will take the flat out, I'll take the plastic bag off, I will take the flat out and put it inside in direct sunlight. Put the flat in direct sunlight, and that will promote the seeds to germinate in a hurry. I will water the flat every morning and every evening, and very, very soon I'll have germination, and the flat will be covered with tiny baby plants. And then I'll continue watering it every day until the flat will look like this. And here you see I have kale, I have a few tomato plants, and I have many different varieties of lettuce here. Here, for example, we were talking about speckled lettuce. I have a beautiful speckled lettuce here. I have various varieties of romaine lettuce, various other varieties of lettuce, and so on. And these plants are now waiting to be transplanted into another flat to get them up and strong. And and then when they become really strong, I will transplant them into their permanent homes in my garden. So, and I would like to say that for those of you who are concerned with climate change, and and I'm so glad that you are, we do not need a high-tech fix. We do not need, it's not a matter of artificial intelligence or robotization or anything or any such thing. It's a question of planting out the Great Plains, of reforestation, all the land that we have desecrated, to replant, to make every bit of space overflowing with vegetables, with flowers, and with trees, fruit trees, shade trees, botanical trees or whatever, but get every single space green, every single square inch filled with wondrously growing dynamic plants, but dynamic fruit trees and vegetables. And this is a secret because one of the wonders of the world in which we live is the wonder of photosynthesis, because plants take the carbon dioxide from the air, and through the miracle of photosynthesis, they fix it into the roots in the ground. They fix the carbon, and also in the process making the sugars and the carbohydrates that we eat in the form of vegetables that keeps us alive and that keeps us growing. So therefore, instead of looking at the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere as a liability, let's look upon it as a treasure. It's up to us to convert it into growing things, to help the plants fix it into the ground, and to convert it to food for people and for animals to eat. So brothers and sisters, all the possibilities are before us. We can go forward, we can go ahead. We have so much. We are beholden to so many, many generations, and they have left us their wisdom and their know-how. We have every possibility to revitalize ourselves, but first to start with hands and feet in this American earth. That's where it is at. To turn every vacant space into an edible schoolyard for the American spirit. Thank you so very much indeed, brothers and sisters, and let us go forward.